everyone, welcome to the Capital Area Food Bank recipe video library. Today we are going to be making a really amazing recipe. We are going to be making eggplant with sausage. Okay, so I'm going to go over all the ingredients that we're going to be using in our recipe today. So we are going to be using an eggplant. So this is half an eggplant. For this recipe, you're going to need one medium eggplant. I already cut up half of it, so here's the other half. And we're going to cut up this half together. And the next ingredient we're going to be using is one medium onion. Again, I cut up half the onion. Here's the other half. And we're going to cut up this half together. Next, we are going to be using one bell pepper. You can use any bell pepper you want. You do not have to use yellow. We're going to use yellow today. If you want to add an extra bell pepper for some extra flavor, feel free to do that as well. Next, we're going to have oil. So this is actually 4 tablespoons oil. I put 1 tablespoon in one container and 3 in the other because we're going to be using it for 2 separate things. So if you want to do this when you're making the recipe, this would be a really easy way to separate it. Next, we're going to have 2 tablespoons of tomato paste, as you can see it. And then we're going to have 1/4 of a teaspoon of black pepper and 1/4 of a teaspoon of salt. And last but not least, we are going to have our sausage. So for this recipe, you're going to need about 1/2 pound of sausage. And the easiest way to go is to get sausage that has a casing in it. So it's like this white, thin film. You're just going to cut it in half and squeeze out all of the mash inside of the casing. So that's basically going to taste just like ground turkey. Okay. But today, this doesn't have a casing. So what we're going to do is we're going to into really tiny pieces for this recipe today. So we are going to go ahead and get started. So we're going to start with our sausage. So again, like I said earlier, we are just going to cut it. We're going to cut it in half. We're going to start like that. So make sure you're always watching your fingers when you're cutting things. So we are just going to cut this sausage in half. Super simple. Cut it in half. And I'm going to actually cut it in half one more time just to make it a little smaller. So what we're going to do is we are just going to cut this half into really tiny bite-sized pieces. Just cut it into really teeny tiny pieces. And again, if you're using the sausage with casing, you do not need to cut up that sausage. Okay? You just need to take a spatula like this and kind of mash it all together and separate it. That's all you'll need to do for that. All right, and while I'm cutting up this one, I'm going to go ahead and heat 1 tablespoon of extra virgin olive oil in the pan. Okay, so I'm going to turn this on medium-high heat. So I'm just going to move it around in the bowl, in the pan. Okay, turn this on medium-high heat. All right, we're just going to let this warm up. So what we're going to do now is we are going to finish cutting up the other half of the onion. So for this, I'm just going to make little slices in my onion. Washing my fingers. And this just makes it really easy to kind of chop it without having to do any extra steps. So washing your fingers, just little slices in your onion. And again, make your claw and just chop your onion up. Right, and then if you want to just make it a teeny bit smaller, and always just make sure you're watching your fingers and just give it one extra little chop. Okay, I'm going to clean my knife off. And I'm going to place all of my onions into this little bowl right here. Okay, so moving all of my onions into this little tiny bowl. Perfect. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and add my sausage to the olive oil. You're just going to cook it, try to get it a little brown, okay? And we're just going to let this sausage brown. And while this is cooking, we are going to go ahead and cut up our bell pepper. So I like to cut it this way. You can cut it any way that you would like. But we are not going to be using the seeds inside. So I find this to be a really easy way to just avoid all of the seeds that are in the bell pepper. Okay, so we have these little slices. So I am just going to slice up the bell pepper. Okay. And then I'm just going to cut them a little teeny bit smaller. All right, and I'm going to put these into the bowl with my onions because we're going to cook those together. So what we're going to do now is we are going to transfer our sausage back into the bowl that we had it in previously. So here's my bowl, and I'm just going to transfer it back into the bowl. And there is a lot of juice left over for our sausage, which is nice. So what we're going to do now is we are going to add our peppers and our onions into the pan. And we're just going to let it cook in all of that sausage juice. Letting it get as nice and soft as it possibly can. All right, our onions look good. So now that they are softened and our pepper is softened as well, we're gonna go ahead and put them all back into this bowl right here. Go ahead and put our onions and our peppers back into our bowl. All right, so what we're going to do now is we are going to heat the rest of our oil. So this is 3 tablespoons. So we're going to go ahead and heat this into our pan. Let this get a little warm. Our pan is pretty warm, so we don't have to wait that long. Right? And while we are waiting for this to get warm, we are going to go ahead and cut up the rest of our eggplant. So this is our other half of our eggplant. So what we're going to do, we are just going to cut it into slices. Okay. And then we are just going to chop it. So you want them to be about half an inch. Okay. So not that big. So what we're going to do now is we are going to add all of our eggplant into the pan. And we are going to let this cook. So now that this is pretty lightly browned, what we're going to do now is we are going to add our 2 tablespoons of tomato paste. And you want this to coat all of your eggplant. We're going to mix all of this in. And making sure that we're coating all of our eggplant. What we're also going to add is we're going to add ½ a cup of water. So I have my ½ a cup of water. So I'm going to go ahead and add this. Still allowing my eggplant and tomato paste to cook all the way through. So along with this, we're going to go ahead and add our 1/4 teaspoon of pepper. So we're going to add that. And we're going to add our other 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Okay, so we are going to go ahead and mix this through as well, making sure our eggplant is getting really nice and tender. It smells amazing. All right, now that that is done, all we're going to do is we're going to add all of our ingredients back. So we're going to add our onions and our peppers back. And we are also going to add our sausage back to the pan. Okay, and you're just going to mix everything through. and it looks a lot like a scramble. Mixing everything through. All right. And here you have it. See, this is our eggplant with sausage. And I hope you really enjoyed this recipe. Again, this is our recipe. And if you're really interested, there is a link below. And what's really awesome about this recipe is that it serves 4 people for only about $6. So please check this out. And if you want to pair it again with any of our recipes below, please check that out. We have sides and salads that would pair really, really nicely with this. Thank you.